Hey everyone! I'd love to hear from you. What tool review would you like me to create an in-depth analysis video on? Drop your suggestions in the comments below, and I will get started on making the most requested one. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, as I upload trending tool insights.
You know that feeling, right? You're building an app and it feels like you're juggling, I don't know, a dozen different things. Databases over here, auth over there, hosting somewhere else.
Oh, totally. It gets complicated fast.
Well, imagine pulling all that stuff together in one place, maybe even with a little AI help. That's kind of the promise of Firebase Studio. And today, we're doing a deep dive to see if it actually, holds up.
Exactly. And our mission isn't just saying, here's what it is. We really want to unpack its value for you. We've looked at a recent hands-on review, dug into community chats like on Reddit to see what developers really think, and even checked out how a giant like Alibaba uses the core Firebase tech. We want to give you a clear picture, help you figure out if Firebase Studio could be, well, a game changer for your own projects.
Yeah, and we know everyone listening has different backgrounds. Maybe you're a coding pro, maybe you're just curious about how apps get built. Either way, we'll break it down, make it insightful, easy to follow. Okay, so basics first. What is Firebase Studio like in a nutshell?
Okay, so think of it as a modern integrated workspace just for building apps. It takes a bunch of the essential Firebase services you normally use separately, databases, logins, hosting, all that, and puts them into one streamlined place.
One single workspace.
Right. It's really designed to simplify things so you've got everything you need kind of right there.
And there's this buzz about AI assistants. How does that actually work? What can it do?
Yeah, the AI part is interesting. It works in a couple of ways. There's prompt-based stuff where you can literally describe a feature or even the whole app idea.
Just type it in.
Pretty much. And the AI helps generate starter code or points you to relevant templates. And it also has these pre-built templates for common app types, which can seriously speed up getting started.
Okay, so AI help, templates. What core Firebase services does it actually bring together?
It's a pretty solid toolkit. You get their databases, the real-time NoSQL one, great for live updates, and Cloud Firestore, which is more for structured data, scalable. Plus user authentication, logins,
Right.
Firebase hosting for getting your web app live, analytics to see what users are doing, cloud functions for back-end code without servers, and even some basic machine learning tools.
And does it integrate well with other Google services? I assume it does.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Firebase hosting integration is seamless. And notably, it uses Gemini, Google's big AI model, to power some of that AI assistance. That helps make the code suggestions and stuff smarter.
Now let's manage expectations here. Is this thing like the final answer for every single app project out there? Fully baked?
That's a really good question. It's definitely still evolving. So while it's super useful for a lot of things, simpler apps, especially using those templates, Node.js backends seem pretty well supported. You might hit limits if you're doing something with really complex business logic or need a super custom intricate UI. It's powerful, it's growing, but maybe not the silver bullet for every single project just yet.
Okay, good context. But the underlying tech, Firebase itself, that's pretty solid, right? We have a quick fact on that.
Yeah, it tells you a lot about the foundation. Over 168,000 live websites are using Firebase services right now. That's huge adoption. It really speaks to the reliability of the core platform that Studio builds on.
Okay, solid foundation. Now let's get into the real world stuff. Someone actually used it, right? Put it through its paces. What did they think?
Yeah, this reviewer dug into several key features. Starting with the Unified Project Dashboard, they found it pretty intuitive, well organized. Gave it 4 out of 5 stars.
4 out of 5, nice.
Yeah, it keeps everything visible without being overwhelming, which is great when you're juggling multiple services.
Definitely helps stay organized. What about the core stuff, like the databases and running back-end code?
Okay, for the real-time database and cloud functions, the experience was even better, 5 stars. Perfect score.
Oh.
They said the setup was really smooth, and for a test chat app they built, the real-time data sync just worked flawlessly. That really highlights a key Firebase strength, that live data stuff with minimal fuss.
Yeah, real time is massive these days. What about logins? User authentication?
The seamless authentication setup, it handles email, Google, Facebook, phone logins, all that got a strong 4 out of 5. The reviewer mentioned getting user sign up and sign in, working in less than an hour.
Less than an hour, that's fast.
Yeah, huge time saving compared to building it yourself.
Absolutely. Okay, so your app's built, users are logging in. How do you know how it's doing? Performance, analytics.
Right. The built-in analytics and performance monitoring. Also 4 out of 5 stars. It gives you a good basic overview, key metrics right there in the dashboard.
But, sounds like there's a but.
Well, yeah. The reviewer felt for really deep analysis like super custom reports, you'd probably still want to pull in more specialized external analytics tools.
Okay, so good for a quick check, but maybe not your full analytics suite. What about collaboration? Did they look at the visual collaboration tools?
They did. Also 4 stars. They found them helpful for seeing data changes in real time across a team, which is cool. But it wasn't really seen as a full-blown project management tool, more focused on that immediate data sync within the app itself.
Gotcha. And with AI being a big theme, how did the machine learning made simple features fare?
Also 4 out of 5. Pretty effective for basic ML tasks. Think text recognition, image analysis, stuff like that.
Okay.
But again, the reviewer noted that if you need really advanced custom machine learning models, you'd likely need more control, probably look outside the built-in studio tools.
Makes sense. And finally, getting the app out there, hosting and deployment.
That was another strong point. 4 out of 5. Quick, straightforward process. Plus, you get the Global Content Delivery Network, free SSL certificates. Made it seem like a really good option for deploying web projects, especially smaller to medium ones.
So overall, sounds like a pretty positive hands-on take. Ease of use, scalability via Google Cloud, that real-time stuff, those were the big wins.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This review really paints a picture of how Firebase Studio can streamline things for a lot of developers.
Okay, so those are the main features, but sometimes the really cool stuff is kind of hidden, right? Are there any, hidden gems inside Firebase Studio?
Oh, absolutely. Let's talk about a few. First up, the Firebase Emulator Suite. This thing is basically a developer's best friend.
Emulator Suite. Sounds technical. Tell me more.
It lets you build and test your entire Firebase app database, auth, functions, even hosting locally, on your own computer.
Oh, okay. Not on the live site.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Which is huge because you can mess around, experiment, debug without risking your actual production data or users.
That sounds incredibly useful, avoids those oops moments.
Totally. And here's a pro tip. Use the Emulator Suite religiously to test your security rules, your login flows, your cloud functions. Do it all in that safe sandbox. No real cost, no risk to live users while you're figuring things out.
Okay, that's a big one for peace of mind. What else is hiding in there?
Next is the extensions marketplace. Think of it like an app store, but for your Firebase project.
Extensions,
Yeah.
browser extensions.
Kind of, but for your backend. These are pre-built chunks of code for common tasks. Like, need to send emails, there's probably a SendGrid extension. Need to resize images automatically. There's likely an extension for that using cloud functions. Translate content, Google Translate API extension.
Whoa, so you don't have to code all that standard stuff yourself.
Exactly. That's the pro tip. Before you build some common feature, check the extensions marketplace. You can often install a solid, ready-to-go extension with just a few clicks. Saves a ton of development time, lets you focus on what makes your app unique.
Smart. Okay, what other gems?
Another powerful technique is using real-time database triggers for analytics. This is a bit more advanced, but really cool.
Okay.
See, Firebase functions can listen for changes happening in your real-time database. So when data changes, you can automatically trigger an analytics event.
Wait, so instead of writing tracking code on the front end for every button click, you can track based on database changes.
Precisely. It allows for super detailed, event-driven analytics. Like, if a user completes a level in a game and there's score updates in the database, a function can automatically log that level complete event. Pro tip here. Set up these listeners to feed directly into Google Analytics for Firebase. You get instant insights into user behavior based on actual real-time data changes, often with less front-end code clutter.
That's clever. Very efficient. Okay, one more hidden gem for us.
Yeah, and this one's great if you're using Firebase hosting for a web app. Custom domain SSL handle.
SSL, the little padlock thing. Security certificate.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you use your own custom domain name, Firebase hosting automatically gets and renews the SSL certificates for you. For free.
Seriously, no more buying certificates or getting those scary renewal emails.
Nope. The pro tip is basically set it up once and forget it. Firebase handles the SSL automatically. It just works.
Okay, I like the sound of just works. Seems like there's quite a bit under the surface. Now, zooming out again. Let's talk pros and cons. What are the big advantages of going with Firebase Studio?
All right, pros. First, it's an all-in-one platform. Huge benefit having everything together. Second, that real-time data synchronization is incredibly powerful for certain apps. Third, the easy setup for things like auth and functions really speeds things up. Fourth, it's built on Google Cloud's scalable infrastructure, so you know it can grow. And finally, there's really strong documentation and a big community around Firebase in general. Lots of help available.
That's a compelling list. What are the downsides, the potential drawbacks?
Okay, cons. First, pricing. It can get expensive as you scale up, so you need to watch your usage. Second, while it's flexible, you might find limited flexibility for really complex, custom back-end logic compared to building it all yourself from the ground up.
Right.
Third, there's still a learning curve, especially for advanced stuff like mastering security rules or really optimizing cloud functions. And lastly, the built-in machine learning tools are pretty basic. Fine for simple tasks, but not for deep custom ML work.
Good balanced view. We have another factoid here about Firebase hosting, which seems key.
Yeah, this really shows the muscle behind it. Firebase hosting uses Google's global CDN content delivery network. It covers over 200 cities in more than 90 countries.
So your app loads fast pretty much anywhere in the world.
Exactly. Speed, reliability, that's crucial.
Definitely. Okay, let's talk money, pricing. Is Firebase Studio affordable, or is it going to break the bank?
It uses a pretty common model. Start for free, pay as you grow, which is generally appealing. There are two main plans. Spark and Blaze.
Spark and Blaze. Okay, what's the Spark plan? The free one?
Yep, Spark plan is the free tier, and it's actually quite generous. You get free access to the core services, Firestore, auth, hosting, functions up to certain usage limits, and you don't even need a credit card to start.
No credit card. Nice.
Yeah, it's great for individuals, hobby projects, MVPs, early startups, basically validating ideas without spending money up front.
Okay, so you can get pretty far for free. What happens when your app takes off and you hit those limits?
That's when you move to the Blaze plan. It's purely pay as you go. You pay for what you actually use, database reads writes, hosting bandwidth, storage, SMS messages for auth, etc.
Right.
It's designed to scale right along with your app's growth. It's the way to go for production apps, businesses needing that scalability.
And what did the reviewer think about this pricing?
Fair. Confusing.
They thought it was very fair. The big plus was starting without worrying about costs and only paying when your app actually gets traction and uses more resources. Seems like a smart way to test the waters.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially for new ventures. So boiling it down, who should be using Firebase Studio? Who's the ideal user?
Well, the sweet spot really seems to be developers, startups, maybe small to medium businesses who want to build apps quickly without getting bogged down in complex backend setup.
People who want to move fast.
Exactly. It's particularly good for projects needing real-time data, easy user logins, cloud storage, fast hosting all in one package.
Yeah. It's also really appealing for solo developers or, early stage entrepreneurs. Lets them build different kinds of apps, chat, games, e-commerce, collaboration tools affordably and scalably without needing a huge tech team or deep back-end expertise from day one.
Okay, so if someone listening is thinking, yeah, that sounds like me, how do they actually get started? Access Firebase Studio.
It's pretty straightforward. First step, just go to the official Firebase website, firebase.google.com.
Got it.
Up in the corner, you'll see buttons like Get Started or Go to Console. Click one of those. You'll need to sign in with a Google account. If you don't have one, you'll need to make one first. Standard Google sign up.
Okay, signed in with Google. Then what?
You'll land in the Firebase console. That's like your main dashboard for all Firebase projects. To start a new one for Studio, just click Add Project.
Right.
Give it a name. Follow the setup wizard. It's pretty simple. It'll ask if you want to add Google Analytics, you can, or you can skip it for now.
And then, boom, you're in Firebase Studio.
Pretty much. Once the project is created, you're automatically dropped into the Firebase Studio environment for that project. You can immediately start poking around, setting up a database, deploying some hosting, adding authentication. It's designed to let you jump right in.
That's pretty smooth. Now, to make this concrete, that reviewer we keep mentioning actually built something, right? A little project.
Yeah, they did. To really test it out, they built something a bit unusual, a photo-to-poem app.
Photo to poem. Okay, explain.
Yeah, the idea was to explore its capabilities beyond just like standard utility apps, test file uploads, AI integration, showing generated content in real time, a creative test case.
I like it. A poetic stress test. So what was the very first thing they did in Studio for this?
Get this. They literally just typed the prompt, an app that generates poems from photos, right into Firebase Studio.
Just like that. Into the AI prompt.
Yep. To see how well it would interpret that natural language request and what kind of starting point it would give them.
And did it work? Did they get a poetry machine going?
They were actually really impressed. Said it was surprisingly fast and accurate at turning that idea into a basic functional prototype.
Well,
It handled photo uploads, showed the generated poems in real time, even scaffolded a basic front-end layout.
Wow.
So yeah, it really showed the potential for rapid prototyping, even for these more imaginative ideas.
That's pretty cool. A great example of the AI assist in action. Okay, so that's one person's experience. What about the wider developer world? What's the buzz in the community?
Right, need that broader view. The reviewer looked into community discussions, especially in places like Reddit, where developers often chat candidly.
Good pulse check.
And the feedback was generally positive. People highlighted benefits, but also, pointed out areas for improvement.
Okay, what were some of the good things people were saying?
Well, one user building a Flappy Bird type game really liked the fast code generation. And they also mentioned liking the interface, that it felt familiar, like VS Code.
Oh, that's a plus. Makes it easier to jump in if you already use VS Code.
Definitely. Familiarity helps flatten that learning curve.
Were there any common requests? Things people wished it did better?
Yeah, one thing that came up was wanting a built-in way to test app responsiveness. How it looks on different screen sizes, phones, tablets, right inside Firebase Studio.
So you don't have to constantly switch to browser tools or simulators for that.
Exactly. Seems like a practical feature that would streamline things even more.
Makes sense. What about the code the AI generates? Is it like production ready or more of a starting point?
The general feeling seemed to be, it's a great starting point, really helpful for getting features roughed out quickly. But you almost always need to go in and refine it, tweak it manually for production quality and your specific needs.
So an accelerator, not a magic wand.
Pretty much.
Any talk about integration with other tools like GitHub?
Yeah, that came up. Specifically integrating with private GitHub repos. Apparently there were some early bugs with cloning and committing to private repositories.
Oh.
But the word was, those issues seem to have been mostly fixed now, which is obviously important for teams using Git.
Good to hear they fixed it. What about for total beginners? Is Studio the best place to start if you've never coded before?
Mixed feelings there. Some users felt that while it aims for simplicity, maybe it's not quite as easy for absolute beginners as some other more visual, highly guided platforms. A basic understanding of coding concepts still seems helpful to really get the most out of it.
Okay, so maybe not for day zero beginners, but good for those with some foundation. Got it. We have another did you know fact here about Firebase adoption generally.
Yeah, this puts its relevance in perspective. In 2024, Nearly 14%, or 13.9% of professional developers said they used Firebase in their cloud development work.
Wow, 14%. That's significant. Shows it's definitely a major player.
Sure. It's widely used in the industry.
Now, to see Firebase power at scale, let's talk about Alibaba, big company. How do they use Firebase tech?
All right, Alibaba, the huge e-commerce giant. They integrated Firebase Cloud Messaging, or FCM specifically. They used it strategically to send targeted notifications to their massive user base.
Okay, so push notifications, basically.
Yeah, but specifically web notifications in this case study. And the results were pretty striking.
How striking?
They saw a 93.4% higher open rate on those FCM web notifications compared to their regular in-app notifications.
93% higher. That's massive.
It is. And even better, the conversion rate among users who got those web notifications improved by 178%.
Whoa, okay, that really shows the impact targeted messaging works.
Absolutely. It's a clear example of how strategically using a specific Firebase feature like FCM can dramatically improve user engagement and drive real business results, even for a company the size of Alibaba.
Okay, Firebase Studio sounds compelling, but it's not the only game in town. What are some alternatives developers should be aware of?
Definitely good to know the landscape. A big one is AWS Amplify. It's Amazon's equivalent, really comprehensive for building web and mobile apps on AWS. Super powerful, super scalable.
Yeah.
But it can also be pretty complex, maybe overkill for simpler projects. Pricing is pay-as-you-go based on AWS usage.
Right. What if you prefer open source?
Then you should look at Firebase. It's positioned as an open-source Firebase alternative. Uses PostgreSQL for the database, which many developers like. Offers auth, storage, real-time stuff. Great for flexibility and control. Has a free tier. Then usage-based pricing.
Okay. We talked about AI in Firebase Studio. Any other AI-focused back-end platforms?
Cursor AI is one trying to carve out that niche. It leans heavily on AI for automating back-end generation database stuff. Looks promising for building AI-driven apps fast.
But maybe newer?
Less mature.
Potentially, yeah. Still relatively early days, especially for really big, complex apps. They've paid plans based on scale.
What about just getting an MVP, a minimum viable product, out the door super fast? Bolt is geared towards that. Rapid prototyping. Built-in back-end, auth, deployment. Great for startups, small teams needing to launch quickly. Has a free tier, then paid options.
The catch.
The catch might be needing to migrate later if you scale significantly. It's really optimized for that initial speed.
Okay. And for people who aren't strong coders, more visual tools.
Windsurf fits that bill. It's a visual app builder, but it integrates cloud functions and databases. Very user-friendly for non-technical folks or visual thinkers.
But limitations?
Yeah, the visual approach might limit you if you need super custom or complex logic. Tiered pricing based on features and scale.
And finally, just Google's main cloud platform.
Right, the Google Cloud Platform, GCP itself. It's the foundation for Firebase, but you can use it directly.
Yeah.
Huge range of services, highly customizable, best for big enterprises, complex projects needing total control. But definitely more complex to manage for simple apps. Pay as you go for everything.
So lots of options depending on your needs, skills, project size. The review also mentioned an explore other AI reviews section.
Yeah, just hinting that this AI and development tools thing is a broader trend. We're seeing AI pop up everywhere, helping with code, debugging, design, deployment.
It's definitely changing things. Okay, last thing from the review. The FAQs. We don't need all the answers, but what kind of questions were people asking? What were the main points of curiosity?
They were the fundamental ones, really. Like, is Firebase worth using overall? Is it good enough for professional app development? What's it really used for? What are common problems people run into? Can you deploy apps from it to the Google Play Store? And how does it stack up against competitors like Cursor?
Yeah, those are the core questions you'd ask before committing. Makes sense.
Exactly. They cover the key decision points for developers considering the platform.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, what's the main thing you want our listeners to take away about Firebase Studio, the core message?
I think the central point is that Firebase Studio offers a really compelling, streamlined way to build apps. It pulls together those key tools, adds some genuinely useful AI help, and can seriously simplify and speed up development for many kinds of projects and teams.
And as people listening mull this over, what should they be thinking about specifically for themselves?
Really, just reflect on your own situation. What are your app development needs? What are the must-haves for your next project? Does this all-in-one approach, the AI features, the pricing model, and did that fit you? Asking those questions is key to figuring out if it's the right tool.
The original reviewer invited comments, wanted people to share experiences. We can't do that here, obviously, but what's the spirit of that for our listeners?
The spirit is, engage with this yourself. If you've used Firebase Studio, how does your experience line up with what we talked about? If you're thinking about it, what questions do you still have? Don't just take our word for it. Your own exploration and thinking are the most valuable next steps.
Right on. And finally, let's end with a thought to chew on. With AI tools like Firebase Studio becoming more common, how might this change app development itself? Like, fundamentally, what new kinds of things might become possible as these tools get even smarter? Definitely something interesting to ponder.